championship game tomorrow. Breaking ball, chance, the glove of the first baseman, it's over. LSU wins it 6-5 with 3 in the bottom of the ninth. Holy cow.
I think DVH would tell you this is the best chance they have to win this whole thing, especially since 2018 when they had that great team that year, too, made it all the way to the finals. The starting pitching is ridiculously good. You know, and the list goes on. This bullpen's ridiculously good. The offense is best in the country, and they play good defense. So Arkansas is the complete package this year. They have a real shot.
Now joining us here on the Lewis Automotive Group hotline is LSU All-American, College Baseball Hall of Famer, top 10 pick in the 94 draft, Mr. Todd Walker. Todd, that was, of course, your voice just talking about this baseball team. Top 11 in fielding, hitting, ERA. What makes this team? What comparisons do you draw to that team you referenced in 2018 with this year's ball club?
Well, first of all, you said top 11. That's in the country. I think it's almost more powerful to say you're best in the SEC because we all know this is the best conference in college baseball. Arkansas's top 3 in all 3 major categories, 2 in defense, 1 in offense, 3 as a staff. It just shows you the complete package that you guys have in Arkansas this year. Dave Van Horn was his 23rd year, just the experience that he has. And, you know, it was never better played out than we talked to Dave Van Horn before the Texas series. Second, you have Texas, LSU, and Tennessee, the last 9 games of the year. And he didn't blink. He said, you know what, first of all, we can compete against these guys. And if we come out of this alive, we're by far the best team. Or he didn't say it that way. He just said, you know, we are battle-tested, and we have the best, you know, chance to win this thing because of that, you know. And so I tend to agree. I think how they swept Texas. They go to LSU. It's going to be a big test. The biggest thing for me is the home field advantage, right? So last year when LSU went to Fayetteville, Arkansas swept LSU. 2 years ago when they were in Baton Rouge, LSU won 2 of 3. So the home field advantage, as we all know, between these two teams is massive. Like Arkansas has lost, 3 games at home all year? They're 30-3. And then LSU 10-2 at home in the SEC within the conference. So that's the biggest deal. But to your question, see, they had a great team in 2021, Arkansas, right? I mean, but you can't really reference that because they didn't even make Omaha. They won the first game against NC State 22-4, whatever it was, and then lost the next 2 games, didn't get out of the Super. So that's why I said 2018, they make the run all the way to the final. But they're just a complete package this year. If you really start breaking it down, you know, they're better offensively. As a staff, I think, you know, they had Tops and Wicklander back in 2021. And then that staff they had in 18 with Blaine Knight, Casey Murphy, and Isaiah Campbell. Those are 3 legitimate starters. I just feel like they're better set up on the mound, which to me, baseball is all pitching first. And the addition of Gage Wood, as we just saw, I mean, ridiculously good. And I keep using that term. I guess it fits. They're really, really good on the mound. So I just think they're complete, man. Now, at the end, when you only lose 2 games and you're out, that's the great equalizer. But I think Arkansas has as good a chance as anybody this year.
Yeah. Todd, you mentioned being really good. You were a really great hitter in your own right in college and the MLB as well. Viva Loy has gone on a tear. He could be Arkansas's 3rd Golden Spikes Award winner. What have you noticed from last year to this year, maybe the changes, maybe the difference that we've seen in Arkansas shortstop?
The main thing is zone discipline. You know, I mean, so when you know what a ball is and what a strike is, then all of a sudden you start laying off those close pitches. And as a hitter, the only way you're going to do that is you take your ego out of it. So as Vahiva Loy, and a lot of these Garrett Jones from LSU, a lot of these power hitters, they don't want to get beat with a fastball. So they're like, I'm getting the barrel out on the fastball. Well, the problem is these pitchers aren't going to throw them too many of those, especially in hitters' counts. And so you get this off speed. And in this day and age, 3-2 counts are not necessarily fastball counts either. Like Vahiva Loy's at the plate, especially with first base open, 3-2, he's getting off speed. And so it takes away your aggressiveness as a hitter. So I think that he's got more zone discipline, which means he's cutting down on his strikeouts. You know, he plays a prime position at shortstop. So that, you know, when he transferred over to Arkansas, kind of had to get used to all that stuff. You know, but I think now he's comfortable playing that prime shortstop position, and then also at the plate with the ability to swing at strikes. And it sounds easy enough, swing at strikes and take the balls, but he's doing a better job of that this year.
Todd Walker, SEC Network, with us on the Lewis Automotive Group hotline. Todd, with the addition of Texas and OU, Wes Johnson coaching at Georgia, this league feels deeper than it's ever been before. How many teams make the field of 64? Because I think there's only about 2 you can completely eliminate right now, and that's South Carolina and Missouri. Beyond that, is everyone still alive, in your opinion?
Yes. Out of Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Florida, who all 3, by the way, are great teams that got off to bad starts, and then Kentucky, who I actually have Saturday against Oklahoma. Kentucky's lost 8 games in the SEC by 2 runs or less. So Kentucky, even though they're 10-14, they've got a solid group as well. 4 teams, Kentucky, Florida, A&M, and State. I think at least 2 make it in, which gives you, 12? But it's 13. 13 schools, I think, is reality. And by the way, it's important to note, RPI and ranking matter, right? That's what gets teams in the field of 64. But ultimately, it's the selection committee. So it's a human element involved in picking these teams. And it's much more difficult for them to pick 13 teams out of a conference than it is to pick less. We had a record 11 last year. Of course, that's what's without Texas and Oklahoma in the league. To answer your question, I think we get 12 in for sure, and maybe 13 depending on how this plays out. But, I don't even want to name them, but the top 10 are definitely in. And then you got Kentucky, Florida, A&M, and State that are fighting for those last 2 or 3 spots.
I've been of the opinion for a few weeks that if you're a top 4 seed and you get that bye to Thursday or Friday, that will automatically stamp you as a top 8 national seed and host throughout. Is that a safe opinion? Is that a correct opinion? And how many top 8 national seeds do you think we see out of the SEC?
They're predicting 6, but that's why I mentioned the human element. It's just so hard, if you can imagine, for these guys to sit around and say, all right, let's just bless the SEC with 6 host sites within the conference. Now, the good thing about that is if Fayetteville, if Arkansas, which they will, host a super regional, the money that factors in and the excitement, and that's what they want, right? They want fans to see all that. And so Arkansas provides that. Baton Rouge provides that. A lot of these places that you can imagine as a committee, they love. So that speaks against what I was about to say. But they still want parity within the country. They still want some variety. So I don't know if 6 of the 8 become national seeds. But I do think your thing's right. So you get the double bye in the SEC tournament in a couple weeks as a top 4 seed. All 4 of those will be top 8 national seeds. I think that's a safe bet.
And that's what makes these series like this weekend. Last weekend with Texas, LSU for the Razorbacks, Tennessee next weekend, and makes the scoreboard watching a lot of fun because these are games and series of real consequence.
When you talk about 13 teams out of the 16 making the field of 64, which is incredible to think about, 7 of the 16 right now still have a chance to be top 8 national seeds, which means you got to win your regional, you host a regional, and then you host a super regional. Texas, Arkansas, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, by the way, number 1 RPI or number 2, somewhere like that. They're sneaking in. Vanderbilt, top 3 RPI or 4 or 5. Auburn really has a real shot to host a super, believe it or not. So Vandy and Auburn, who we've kind of left for dead, still have a real shot to host not only a regional but a super. So I still think there's 7 teams with a real chance to host supers. So you're right. Like, these games are being played out that way. Oklahoma, I don't think, is going to host a super, but they're playing to host a regional. Kentucky's just playing to try to get in, for example. So there's a lot to play for these last 2 weekends.
We're talking with Todd Walker this morning on the Lewis Automotive Group hotline, LSU All-American, ESPN, SEC Network, college baseball analyst. Todd, I maintain that LSU has the best baseball job in the country. Johnson, Maneri, Bertman. I mean, there's championships over several decades of coaches. I know Arkansas doesn't have that national championship, and I know Dave's still trying to get it. Where does the Arkansas baseball job rank in the pecking order of not just this league but the sport?
Well, I think it's a very valued job, but I think you could say that about at least half the schools in the SEC. Arkansas, since the start of the 2017, I love this stat. The Arkansas Razorbacks, since the start of the 2017 season, has won more games than anybody in Division I baseball.
Wow.
And that's a lot to do with Dave Van Horn. And Dave Van Horn took Nebraska to Omaha twice in the early 2000s. I mean, we haven't seen much of Nebraska, since he left. So it just shows you, and what I said earlier, just about his demeanor, and, everybody wanted to call what Arkansas was going through as a skid. I think they had lost 3 series in a row before they swept Texas. He said, look, it's baseball. It's what happens. And players take on the personality of the coach. if you see the coach panicking, well, then the rest of the group's going to panic. But his demeanor's just perfect for that program. And I look at Arkansas fans as New York Yankee fans. Very knowledgeable, very passionate, will let you know when you make a mistake. And in some cases, a little far-fetched and ridiculous. But man, you'd love – and you guys laugh because you know. But that's the way they are. And, I, as a player, wouldn't have it any other way because they're going to remember you forever. And especially if they championship this year, which again, it's going to be fun to watch because they don't let you breathe, right? So 1 through 9, there's not a week out. We know if Logan Maxwell's coming back this weekend. I don't know that, but he's a big part of that offense. But 1 through 9, there's no week outs. Defense is great. We saw what Root did last week to Texas. Struck out 11. Gage Wood had the 12 outs he pitched. He struck out 9, and then when you stack Wood and Gackle in the same game, that's difficult. And then Sunday with Beidelshees and the rest of the bullpen. Baseball, but I just have a hard time seeing anybody beating them before Omaha. And then at that point, it's just who's playing well.
Well, this is a guy, Tommy, that obviously knows his baseball, but let's ask him about food. So, Todd, I'm here in Baton Rouge this morning. I have been instructed by my co-host to go to Louis. Do you have a recommendation on not just something there, and Phil's and Chimes are also on the list. Anywhere else
I've been to Chimes,
in the area or at Louis that you would recommend as a Louisiana guy?
I can tell you what's good. There's not you can go with anything you like. To me, when I go to restaurants, I do something different every time. My personal favorite is TJ Ribs. They're in Baton Rouge off of Acadiana. That's so good. But you can't go wrong with food in the South. You know that. So I don't have a particular favorite in any of those spots, but they are my favorite. Some of my favorite restaurants. They're all good for different reasons. But, man, you can definitely gain a lot of weight. That was hard to play in Baton Rouge because you're always eating.
Yeah.
And so I had to, luckily I was 20 years old at the time, so my metabolism was a little better than it is now.
Yeah.
Todd won a national championship in '93 despite the food that he was intaking every single day.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, if you're on a low-carb, no-butter diet, you're in trouble down there. So.
Yeah. Todd,
That's right.
Good stuff this morning, man. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see if your predictions come correct and see if this team gets through the next couple weekends and ends up in the Emerald City of Omaha, Nebraska.
Big one this weekend to see what Arkansas is made of. They're on the road. That's a tough challenge for them. But LSU's, we know, they're top 8 national seed, too. So this is a matchup you're going to see in Omaha. Pretty good.
Goliath versus Goliath. I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Todd, thanks. Have a great weekend.
All right. You too.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing and we're into the NBA and NHL playoffs, and BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.